and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, Pros and Cons of Moving the Global Economy from a Fossil Fuel Base to Alternative Energy. My name is Tanushree Majumdar, and it gives me immense pleasure to host this much awaited, impeccable webinar for all of you today. First of all, please allow me to welcome our participants, members of participants, guests, dignitaries, and speakers. IIM Calcutta Innovation Park aims to recognize, reward, and support a large number of early-stage social entrepreneurs working with innovative solutions to solve large-scale problems in India, which is in line with the vision of Tata Group to support socio-economic development in India. One of the key objectives of IIM Calcutta and IIM Calcutta Innovation Park is to help unleash entrepreneurial energy for India's development. Environmentalists from all over the world sound the alarm about the state of our planet. Scientists have predicted that if humanity does not change the way of using energy sources, our planet's resources will run out in less than 40 years. Therefore, people have been changing their minds about fossil fuels. In the year 2019, most of the young activists have taken up the responsibility and are working on this space. But the pandemic have just created a devastating effect on the sprouting idea of once again. A falling economy, unemployment, reduced spending in the pandemic, and subsequent lockdowns have had a devastating impact on each and every sector. Now, when the timing are coming back from the new normal to normal situations, we would like to understand your thoughts on how the idea can be nourished and also people working on the existing space can help the economy. Today, let's unveil the story of power, greed, perseverance, patience, and strong affirmations of having a never say die attitude of these spectacular personalities who show this with such courage, leadership, and compassion. Let's welcome our speaker of the day. Today, we have with us Piyush Jaju, who is the co-founder and CEO of ONergy as well as SwitchON Foundation, one of the leading and multiple award-winning social enterprise promoting solar solutions and agri-tech products. He is an economic graduate and a university topper. Piyush has prior experience in financial services and investment banking within India, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia. Piyush has received prestigious international fellowships from Santa Clara University and other universities as well. He is a regular speaker at various national and international forums. Piyush is an avid traveler, having visited more than 30 countries across 5 continents. Welcome, Piyush, and we would love to hear a lot of these journeys as well. Pankaj Choudhary, he is the founder and CEO of Carbon Miners. Pankaj is a marine engineer and an alumni from IIM Calcutta. He was also in the Civil Service Department at Government of India. He worked as an executive director at ANC Lifestyle Pvt Ltd. Carbon Miners strives to achieve mass adoption of solar-based power generation at net zero upfront cost to the end users, leading to distributed production and distributed use of green power. Mr. Syed Masihur Rab is the founder and CEO of Citadel Enterprise Pvt Ltd. Syed is a dynamic, passionate, and empathetic worker in the field of EV and a well-known name as well. Mr. Rab is an entrepreneur who is bringing innovations to the electric vehicle arena and has a zeal and desire to widespread the cutting-edge technology to the common man. Lastly, we have with us to moderate this entire session, Mr. Anand Mudan, a sector leads for climate actions at Wilgrow. He's an engineer who passionately believes that technology can stimulate social change. He has more than 25 years of experience in technology development, product R&D, and working with social entrepreneurs, currently leading the climate action vertical at Wilgrow, funding and supporting social entrepreneurs in the field of energy, access, and climate change mitigations to improve their products and services offerings and fine-tune their market strategies. Anand has worked in several reputed organizations like Selco, Siemens, Lucent Technologies, and Mindtree, and many more. And thank you so much, Anand, for coming here and moderating session with us. So over to you, Anand.
Thank you so much, Tanushree. It's really a pleasure to be here amidst this very august panel, and I'm sure we have a lot of enthusiastic listeners waiting for us to kind of expand on this topic. Now, when I first saw the topic, pros and cons of moving the global economy from a fossil fuel based to alternative energy, the first thought that struck me was, what are the cons? I mean, everybody knows the pros. We know that our planet is getting more and more polluted by the day. We know the impacts of that pollution in terms of the global warming, in terms of health hazards. We've seen the recent heat waves which have struck us. We've seen the way the climate is changing. So what are the cons of moving, right? But actually, when you think about it, this topic itself is quite a nuanced one, and one has to understand that changing from something which has been established over centuries to a new way of doing things, to a new set of practices, comes with its own challenges, right? And I think we as a set of practitioners in this group, people who have for decades now been implementing some of these alternative energy solutions, some of these green technologies, I think it is our responsibility to comment on this and to also bring awareness to the audience in terms of, what are some of these challenges of actually changing the way, we use energy, the way we use technology. What are some of those, the challenges which come along with that? I mean, in recent times, many of us would have noted what happened in Sri Lanka, right? For example, where there was a very positive move towards greener way of agriculture. There was a sudden switch to organic farming, except that they tried to do it overnight, literally, by banning the sale of chemical fertilizer and trying to, overnight switch all the major crops, including rice and tea, to organic methodologies. There was a sudden crash in the output. There was a steep hike in the prices. The estimates range anywhere from 20 to 50% in terms of the reduction of output. And that itself, while the move was highly commendable, the way it was done and some of the challenges which it brought about, I think that is a warning for all of us. That is a lesson for all of us in terms of, how some of these green technologies, some of the, clean energy comes with its own challenges. Not that that should stop us from doing it, but it is good to understand it before plunging into it. So with that brief introduction, I would, and Tanushree, thank you for introducing our eminent panelists. That saves me the task of having to do that. And, I think the audience would have seen what a wealth of experience they all bring. I would like to quickly plunge into the topic. At Wilgrow, which is a 20-year-old incubator of social enterprises, we have been working with social enterprises in this alternate energy, as well as other green technologies for several years now, and we have firsthand seen some of these challenges. So I will also try to bring in some of my experiences as we go along. But I think we should, first invite our speakers to talk a little bit about their experiences. So maybe I will start with Piyush. And Piyush, I'm quite familiar with your work as we have known each other for many years now. So I think one more point which was very nicely brought about in the topic itself and in Tanushree's introduction is that the world is recovering from the COVID pandemic, right? And in a way, it is like starting a new chapter. I think a lot of us, starting from the school kids who have started to go to school for the first time after 2 years, to many of us, many of the people who work in offices who have, started now going back to work, you can see that, it's like starting a new chapter. Is it also... So in this new normal, right, it seems to be a great opportunity to do things very differently, even when it comes to the environment, right? So Piyush, the question to you would be, in this new normal, what would you want the world to do differently so that it can become a greener place? And from your own organization, from ONergy's perspective, what could you contribute towards this to kind of start things afresh and to do things in the new normal? Piyush.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ananda, and thank you so much, Tanushree and IIM Calcutta for hosting this. So, as you rightly said, especially when we're talking about the new normal, and a good anecdote is how students are able to adjust to getting back to school. And similarly, we saw the same problem in the energy sector as well. And just like many students, the energy sector was also not prepared. There was this huge influx of demand, and there was a massive supply problem. We were scrambling for coal. We were scrambling that if the power grid is stable or not. And it was a big mess, especially when there is a surge in demand in the summer season. And that has pretty important lessons on how we would want to transition and develop as a nation, and also the entire energy sector, how it would like to develop. And I think one of the big takebacks that I see for us is that how we can really promote more decentralized distributed energy solutions, because that is what will give us more independence. We do not have to be really that, okay, there needs to be a central grid that will supply us power and that will give us at lower rates. And similarly, drawing parallels to being dependent on somebody else. And that's what will not only benefit ourselves financially, economically, but it's also going to stabilize the grid. It's also going to bring about more generation of electricity. And more importantly, it's going to be done at a cost which is significantly lower than what consumers are having to pay. What maybe farmers in the field are having to pay when they're replacing their diesel gensets. Just imagine when we were in lockdown and there was no supply, farmers were having difficulty just to irrigate their fields because diesel supplies were disrupted. Why would one have to suffer for that if there is some disruption? Why cannot a farmer have a solar pump and provide water to their fields whenever they want to? Similar case that we saw right now with industries being disrupted because of shortage of coal, shortage of diesel, and erratic power supplies. So that was a common story that played out in the past few years. And if there is more decentralized distributed energy in terms of, be it in terms of solar pumps, microgrids, rooftop solutions, and that's what will significantly lower the energy costs for the end user and also make them more independent. So that is definitely what I'm definitely hoping we make a transition towards that.
Thank you so much, Piyush. So decentralized equals independent. I think that's a very strong and powerful concept which you have put across. And, we definitely saw the impacts during the COVID pandemic. And we also saw that those areas which had decentralized renewable energy sources were actually much more stable in terms of power and not dependent or not affected so much by the lockdowns. Very interesting. I'd like to request Mr. Rab to say a few words on this topic. You specialize in electric vehicles, and definitely we are seeing a lot of activity there, especially post-pandemic. We are seeing quite a steep uptake or increase in the uptake of these vehicles. In fact, if you take our capital city, Delhi, I'm told that if you take the 2- and 3-wheeler segment, nearly 70 to 80% of the new registrations are happening in the field of, happening as electric vehicle rather than the ICE vehicles. So maybe, the same question to you, Mr. Rab, in terms of, what should we be doing differently now that a new chapter has started in the post-pandemic era? I think you're on mute, sir.
Mr. Rab, I think you are on mute.
Can you hear me, Tanushri?
Yes, now it is audible.
It's all right?
Yes, yes.
Sorry for the interruption. Thanks, Mr. Anand and Tanushri, for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak on the subject. I am into electric vehicle manufacturing. I am manufacturing 2- and 3-wheel vehicles, which are in great demand. And actually, I would rather say that we are not growing, we are multiplying. It's the scenario is such that we are unable to cope up with the requirements that are coming from our network. And we are a small company, bootstrapped, nowhere here and there. So we manage the affairs, and we are having a small team which is constantly under innovation. We are innovating a lot of products in the EV segment, and the disruption that happened because of the pandemic, it was everybody was affected, and we all would laugh by saying that this month our and Tata sale were together. That is, it was zero for everyone. So we would say that we were at par with Tata this month. So after that, the scenario has absolutely changed. The model of doing business has changed. And what I felt that I started creating small hubs, like the vehicles, e-rickshaw that we send was a very big segment where the requirements are so high that I don't think that we have catered at least 2 to 5% of our requirements. We haven't entered the rural segment. It's still untapped. And the two-wheel segment is enormous. The total sales for the two-wheelers are, as on today, is something I see they sell in Mumbai is the total sales of the electric vehicle two-wheelers sold in the country. So the potential is quite high in that arena. And the players are not, the total industry is to be blamed by the people who are using the manufacturing facility. Nobody is going into too much of innovation. Majority of the people are simply bringing and just tightening nuts and supplying it to the market. We are working differently and trying to push something new in the market, for which we are a very small team, and we have created certain new models of sales and marketing, plus we have created small hubs which are helping us, and these hubs are going in a better way for our customers as well as the dealer network. So in this scenario, what you are asking, the dynamics of the trade has changed, and we are absolutely hopeful that it's the future. If you say pros and cons are very tough to figure out. Pros everywhere, it shows that benefits are huge. So I'll just conclude by saying the benefits are huge. If you compare it with an ICE, it's enormous.
That's really heartening to hear, and especially the fact that your business has picked up. We also at Will Grow support several startups in the EV space, not vehicle manufacturers, but the infrastructure providers like charging stations and all. And they also are reporting to us that there is very good uptick, in their sales and in the overall demand. So it's really heartening, and I hope that trend continues. Let me move on to Pankaj. Pankaj, your firm specializes in rooftop solar, and I, going through your website, saw a lot of very interesting models there. We'll speak much more about that. But first, let me pose the same question to you. In this new normal, what would your organization be doing, or what has changed for your organization? What would you be doing differently to really kind of increase the adoption of these alternate energy sources?
Great. Once again, thank you, IIM CIP, for bringing me back on the same platform. I'm Calcutta alumni only, and it is always a pleasure to come back on the same platform or sister organizing platform to speak. Let me pick up a line which Piyush used probably: decentralized energy, sustainability, etc., etc. So the power infrastructure across the world, not only in India, has been designed in such a way that everything flows in a centralized way. The grids are created centralized, the thermal power plants, or even other power plants also, even nuclear power plants, anything else is centralized, and it distributes the power to the end consumers through the network. The benefits are obvious, which has been working for the world for last, so many years, but the cons are much more obvious now. Okay, besides the T&D losses, etc., the sustainability and the future itself is in the question. Now, coming to how the systems are changing. So renewable energy in itself works fundamentally different than what thermal power or other power sources work. It is itself in itself a distributed source. in the sense that, for example, let me talk about solar because we specialize in that. We are also taking hybrid power solutions, including winds. But yes, as of now, our expertise lies in solar. Solar itself, the irradiation fall all over the earth. And fortunately, the consumers are also spread all over the earth. So if we can connect them, let's say the demand source and the consumer, the demand source and the supply source, if we connect them together and make a system wherein the consumers are using energy at the site itself or producing energy at the site itself, it will make the whole system much more sustainable, much more independent, much more auto-functional. In a simple terms, we call it distributed energy and distributed consumption also. So we have seen, okay, COVID is an example. Much more devastating things can happen, and already, the top organization in the world have predicted that climate change is for real. It is not a hoax. Okay, and let us not ignore the day-to-day life examples, but let us also not ignore the bigger predictions which COP has done or which other organization has done, that what will happen of even 1 meter of sea rise or polar ice melting or whatever, even 1 degree rise of temperature in what we have predicted. The things will be much beyond the control of anybody else. Now, how does a common man, how it makes sense to a common man who is using energy in his day-to-day life, until it comes to economic, prudence or making it, economic sense to them? They don't care. That is our experience so far. We started that we will go distributed, we will make spread awareness and people buy our idea. Being in a startup, we faced a lot of heat by convincing the people. Retail consumers, they simply said that why should I invest 5 lakh rupees for my household, for which I'm getting electricity for almost 5,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees. People were not convinced. Then we had to think that there has to be some solution to this. The entire industrial or commercial segments, which is cross-subsidized by, since power is also a kind of political issue in India and everywhere else also, it's a populist measure also by the government. Convincing the broader public in itself is a difficult task, and it has to move through the public policy makers. But what we can change at the ground is the consumers who are being cross subsidized. For example, industrial segments or commercial segments who are paying the high cost of power, and they have been squeezed by both sides, credit side also, supply side also, every side. So the current trend was that all the big players, be it, I don't want to name them, but yes, whosoever bigger player in the renewable sector, they were doing the credit rating, they were assessing the credit ratings of the companies, and they were either giving lease, rental, or whatever, financing solutions to them for going to green. But what about those companies who do not have credit ratings and they're paying power bills? So their sunk cost is, let's say they are paying 5 lakh rupees power bill every month. If somebody can make a solution, give them a solution wherein the 5 lakh rupees of power bill converts into a lease, rental, or EMI payments, and the same system continues for them, they create an asset also. That made sense for them, and it clicked for us. I mean, as Mr. Syed was saying, I think that he is flush with the demand. I mean, it's really difficult for people, for startups to hear that word, that yes, we are flush with the demand. And that's what we have faced in last 5 to 6 months. We are a new startup and we are 1 year old. When we started providing this solution, which is very popular in up markets, aircraft leasing or etc., to the smaller client like MSMEs, manufacturing companies, etc., they found it with much of their favor that they're paying the same power bill but not as power bill, but as an EMI or as a lease rental. They are facing the lower cost of electricity, what it's called as levelized cost of electricity, much lower for renewable energy, as I think Piyush has mentioned it, that it is making now economic sense also. And they are creating an SLO because the asset has to be transferred to them in 5 years when they complete the payment. The name for it is maybe RESCO, somebody calls it RESCO, somebody calls it OPEX, somebody, there are other arrangement also, lease rental, hire purchase, etc., etc. But this is something which is helping, especially the C&I and the manufacturing sector, MSMEs clients. This is what we are also changing. Yeah.
Sure, Pankaj. No, thank you so much. I think you brought a lot of points, and I'm going to take you up much deeper into some of those models for the benefit of our audience. But meanwhile, I think the important point you brought up is that about affordability, right? While you said that maybe the total cost of ownership, if you look at all these models, is actually beneficial to the end customer, the upfront costs are much higher.